television's gayest game, What's My Line?
And now let's meet our What's My Line panel of well-known personalities whose lines you already know. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in the New York Journal-American and papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
And on my left, the noted columnist and author whose latest book is the very funny Laughter Incorporated, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
Thank you, Dorothy. On my left is a glamorous lady whose charming phiz, like that of Dorothy Kilgallen, beams out at you from a double-page spread in the current issue of Life, Miss Arlene Francis.
Didn't mention the girl in the middle, eh? Say Emerson, I'll mention it. And on my left, our favorite comedy panelist, Hal Block.
And on my left, my favorite news correspondent, a man who should have known that Truman wasn't going to run when Margaret hooked up with Durante, Mr. John Daly.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to What's My Line, presented by Stop It. Once again tonight, we're going to have some folks from here and there before our cameras, all of them with interesting and varied occupations, and all of them hoping to give our friends on the panel a run for the money. They hope to carry home some prizes. We'll also have a famous guest challenger before the panel a little bit later in the show, but right now, to start things rolling, it's time for our experts to meet our first challenger, whose job they'll have to spot. Will you sign in, please, ma'am? It's very nice to see you, Mrs. Brody. Stay here to meet you, Mr. Seth, will you? Say, that's a real lovely orchid you have there, you know?
That was given me by a very special friend.
Well, I'm very happy to hear it. I hope this is a special occasion and you have lots of fun. Will you tell us, first of all, where you live?
New York City.
In New York. Well, then you haven't had too far to travel so far tonight, and our friends on the panel would like to know you a little better. So would you walk down in front of the panel for me, please?
How are you? Well, what is the name? Now that you wrote it.
Mrs. Brody, hello.
Mrs. Brody, I want to look at that pink ribbon.
I've worn a pink ribbon for the last 60 years.
All right, Miss...
Come on, I have.
I just want to shake hands, too.
You look better in
Mrs.
your
Brody,
order.
would you come over here now? Would you come over here and sit down next to me, please? Will you
sit
come
down
over
next to
here
Mr.
now and
Daly?
sit down next to me? That's it. Just come on over here and sit down, will you? Be comfortable. Now, I tell you what we're going to do, Mrs. Brody. On the basis of your handwriting, what you said, come up real close because you're going to have to use that microphone. We're going to give the members of the panel one free guess as to what your line may be, and we'll begin the free guesses with Miss Kilgallen.
Well, I think obviously she paints primitives.
Mr. Sir.
I think she's a fan dancer.
Miss Francis.
Judging by her handwriting, I think she must specialize in writing the Lord's Prayer on the head of a pin.
Mr. Block.
Thank you.
I think she's an oil well driller.
No, I'm afraid you're all wrong. We'll let our viewers at home have a further look at Mrs. Brody. At the same time, we'll tell them what her line is. But, panel, you've got to work. Here's how the game works, Mrs. Brody. The panel will ask you questions to be answered yes or no. And each time that you give them a no answer, it's going to cost them $5, and we'll keep the record up here. 10 no's and $50, they've lost the game. All right, we'll give them one more bit of help. Mrs. Brody is salaried, and with that, we'll begin the general questioning with Mr. Sir.
Mrs. Brody, do you perform services of any kind?
I do.
Is there a product involved in what you do?
Well, yes, to quite some extent.
Do you yourself have something to do with the making or manufacture of this product?
I certainly do.
Is it a product that can be used equally by men and women?
Why? You might say male and female.
Don't
Male
you
and
give him so
female.
much help. Yes, to that.
Oh, male and female. I see. Well, then this isn't a product that I would wear myself. Is that correct?
I think you look rather ridiculous.
Yes, it is a product that you would not use yourself, Mr. Say.
Mrs. Brody, if, I think you gave me rather a hint. Would you say that this was a product that was used on animals of some sort?
Well, to some extent, yes.
Would they be domesticated animals?
Would you give a short definition of domesticated here so nobody gets hurt?
Well, certainly not a wife. Domesticated in the sense that they're tame and can be found somewhere around the house or the farm.
Found somewhere around the house, and that'd be the one down and 9 to go.
The one place that I'm afraid...
Don't tell them anymore. All right, Miss Francis.
Is this animal something, then, that one might find outdoors?
I think.
Yes.
Rather.
Is it a four-legged animal?
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy. Is it an animal larger than a dog?
Well, a little bit larger.
The way you said a little bit larger, I have a feeling it's a rhinoceros. No, but it is a large animal on the size of, let us say, a horse or a rhinoceros or an elephant in that category.
Well, it might be classed as such.
Well, I can't ignore the ooh, so I must ask you if it has anything to do with the elephant kingdom.
I'm afraid it does.
It does.
Just quite
Now,
some extent.
do you, by any chance, have anything to do with some part of the elephant? Some special part?
Oh, no.
Oh, we work on the whole elephant, huh?
Yeah.
You're a little woman to do all that.
I never believe in doing things in half.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Block.
I kind of hate to confine this to the elephant because I don't want to be partisan in politics. But, you...
Oh, you shouldn't
by
leave doors
any
open
chance-
like that, Hal. You really shouldn't.
Do you by any chance have anything to do with training an elephant?
Well, not today,
Not-
but in former years.
Not today. That is not the line now. So that's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Does what you do to the elephant improve its appearance?
Greatly.
Is it something that has to do with the elephant when the elephant is on parade or being seen by the public?
Certainly does. To
Is
great extent.
Is it something that the elephant would wear?
Well, yes. He wouldn't look well lying down in it, though.
I have seen elephants in very pretty little tutus and other sort of costumes. Do you by any chance have something to do with the making of costumes for elephants?
Mm-hmm.
When they're all
Certainly
dressed
does.
up? Do you sew on the costumes?
Oh, yes.
You are then a couturier for elephants?
Beg pardon?
A couturier for elephants. And I think we're going to have to agree it's right. Mrs. Brody embroiders elephant blankets.
Oh.
86 years old.
86 years old.
And she spends all of her time doing this elaborate embroidery on the elephant blankets that the elephants wear when they're on their best bib and tucker, I guess you'd say, wouldn't you?
I'm sure the elephants will always remember her.
I'm sure they will, too. Well, you got a pretty good prize, but I think above everything else you had a good time being with us, and certainly it was wonderful having you as our
She was
guest on
great.
What's My Line.
Thank you so much.
Good night. And now let's see what we can do with another challenger. Will you sign in, please, ma'am? The challenger, will you sign in, please, ma'am? Dolores Belcher. Are you? Is it Miss or Miss? Miss Belcher.